I mean, seriously though.
Welcome, everybody, to the Armchair Racers podcast. I'm your host, Kenny Kibbe, along with my co host, Austin Belke. We took a weekend off for the Easter holiday, so I hope everybody had a good Easter. But we're back at it again this week, and we have quite a bit to talk about, but really not a whole lot as far as the real racing goes because we're at Martinsville this week. Obviously, they did not race last week with um, the Easter holiday as well, but the thing is that both of the races, the Cup and the Xfinity races that are going on, have not been finished yet, or hardly even started. But we can talk about Bristol Dirt, and we'll get right into that. So we'll talk about the truck race first, which was pretty well dominated by Martin Truex Jr. of all people. Did you think? Were you surprised by that, Austin? That Truex kind of fell into this dirt niche so quickly?
Yeah, I was really surprised how fast he caught on to it, and then just how much he dominated. Like to say he dominated is almost an understatement because as soon as the green flag flew, he would just like build a gap, and he wouldn't stop building the gap. Like I figured he was going to burn up his stuff, or he was doing something wrong, and he was just going to be on slicks by the end of it. But like every time the caution came out, and they went back green. He just like kept building a lead. Like there was no holding him back. So yeah, I was very surprised because it was his first time on dirt, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean he might have had an occasional start on dirt, but that was also his first truck race in like 15 years. Um, so I mean, and there's I was really expecting like you saw like Sheldon Creed was pretty strong and Stuart Friesen was pretty strong. They've have strong dirt ties, but I think what their downfall was their over aggression and over driving. That's just kind of their style. And Truex is such a smooth driver. I think that really helped him in this particular dirt race, being that these cars and trucks they're not very good on. They're not made for dirt, and I think being a smooth driver really does kind of help you out there. Because
Yeah,
really,
I agree.
these things are about it's about keeping them straight more than keeping them sideways. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and just that patience that Martin had, he was able to do that. I was pretty disappointed though that Stuart Friesen's wife couldn't make the race. I wanted to see what she would have done with her, the opportunity.
Yeah, me too. And that, of course, came from the fact that qualifying heat races got rained out, and she was one of the trucks that did not have any owner points, so she had to miss the field along with some others. Yeah, that sucked to see. Um, with the, there's been teams that have been victims, at least in the Xfinity series, of the whole formula and not being able to qualify, with there being too many entrants, and now finally a race where the teams get to qualify, but it's in trucks, obviously, and then they don't get to qualify still because of weather. It was kind of unfortunate. But then moving on to the Cup race, there was a um, it was quite a dust bowl. They had quite a bit of problems with that, and um, but I think NASCAR did a good job considering the circumstances and getting this race in. And Joey Logano ended up the winner. Yet another driver that's not really well versed on dirt, and he came away with the win. How about Daniel Suarez though, leading like he led like 50 some laps, and ended up like was he in the top five or
He
was he like
won
sixth?
stage two.
Yeah, he won stage two. I mean, he was quite strong. Very impressive. Eric Jones got another top 10. Ryan Newman had a good run that he really needed, which he's got some dirt ties. But yeah, I thought. What did you think of the race in itself from a fan's perspective?
I thought it was a really good race. I mean, it sucked that we couldn't get the top line to come in because that was one of the things I wanted to see where you could kind of go down low, but you could also just rip the lip, if you know what I mean. And I figured like Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick would really, um, like take advantage of that style of racing. Sucked that Kyle got knocked out so early thanks to Bell, and he called him out on it too, and that was Christopher Bell fucking up, and he took both he and Larson out, so that really blew. But I thought it was a really good race. Surprising to see Joey Logano win, like you said.
Yeah, just about all the guys with all the dirt favorites everybody was thinking of, Bell, Larson, even Austin Dillon people were hyping up. I mean, they all did pretty well terrible.
Well,
um,
I mean, terrible if you look at the results, but Larson started last and he was up to like seventh by, before the first stage ended. So he was doing well. It's just if you look at the result, he did terrible.
yeah, but they have announced that they're going back to Bristol Dirt next year. Hopefully, weather will cooperate. I know, Bristol spring race has a lot of weather problems, but a lot of the tracks at this time of year have weather problems, so it's kind of something it's hard to avoid. Um, but
Are you happy that they announced that, Kenny, or were you hoping they'd kind of go somewhere else?
um, I'm not opposed to it. I'm open to it. I didn't think it was like a total failure or anything. Um, and since they already go to Bristol twice a year, if they only went to Bristol once a year and made it dirt, I'd have a problem with that. But since they go to Bristol twice a year, they can have it once paved, once non-paved. And I'm not so sure if other tracks would be very good at hosting a cup event, like in Eldora. And Eldora would probably be first in line, although I'm not sure Tony Stewart wants a cup race at this point. Um, Knoxville maybe, but a lot of these dirt facilities, I don't know if they have the accommodations. That's why taking a current cup track and changing it to a dirt track really makes sense for NASCAR because they don't have to worry about a facility being able to accommodate the event because they already know Bristol can do that. So I don't mind it. We'll see how it plays out next year. It's definitely a wild card event for sure.
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, they want to go, oh, we want to cup race at, short track A, B, and C, but a lot of them they just don't have the facilities, they don't have the accommodations for the garages and the haulers, and don't have like safer barriers and all that stuff. So there's a
Yeah,
lot of
you'd
work.
piss off a majority of the people that were going to actually go to the place and buy tickets and then not have a place to park or just bad arrangements. No, I was at my buddy's house, so I miss that completely. Do you want to repeat it?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure how much you guys missed right there, but um, yeah, geez, that might have been a little while. Anyways, move on to Martinsville this week. Um, Obviously, the Xfinity race they got going, but they're 92 laps in, and then they got rained out. The Cup race got about 46 laps or something, 40
Yeah,
around 40
42.
laps. Yeah, and they are rained out, so they'll both be running today. Should be able to get both races in. It should be a nice day today, but no, not really any night racing going on. And yeah, Brandon Jones is leading the Xfinity race, and Brett Moffitt's up towards the front. Brandon Brown was up towards the front. Good runs for them. Um, and our AJ Allmendinger had a broken sway bar link, or like a loose sway bar link, and they're having a hard time getting that fixed up. And so they're a lap down now, but I'm looking forward to them coming back through the field if they can get that fixed and get back on the lead lap because AJ's quite good there in the past. So there's that, and Cup race didn't really get much going. Denny Hamlin looks really strong, but Logano looks very strong in the long run. And Ryan Preece was in the top 10 at least for the majority of that run, so that was cool to see. Of course, he's a modified driver, got to run a bunch of laps this week, so that might have helped. But now everybody's going to have to adjust in the daytime. Do you think? Um, what do you think about what you know so far about what's gone on this weekend, and do you think the transition now from nighttime to daytime is going to play a factor?
Oh, a huge one. I think if you had a good car, for your night race, you're gonna have a bad car, and if you had a bad car, you're probably gonna have a good car. So, if somebody thought they were doing pretty hot, they're gonna be pretty not hot today.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the weather is going to be there. It might still be pretty cool, so that might help things. But of course, direct sunlight on a track's still going to make it
If
warmer.
the sun comes out, everything is gonna go away, so they'll have to make some pretty quick adjustments.
Yeah, I'm thinking people are going to have to fight a tight condition today, is my guess.
Definitely, definitely.
But and speaking of Martinsville, we got our fantasy picks, and I will pull mine up real quick. Um, so I ended up picking Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Ricky Stenhouse, and in my garage is Tyler Reddick. All these guys I've either used only once or twice. My bonus picks Hamlin as the winner. Top Chevy is Chase Elliott. Top Ford, Joey Logano. Top Toyota, Denny Hamlin. Winning manufacturer Chevrolet, and Joe Gibbs Racing winning team. I think I have a pretty stout team this week. I'm hoping Stenhouse can do really well so that I can um, get him used. But I like to kind of have an underdog pick in the garage and pull him out if I need to, um, instead of burning up the really good drivers, really good teams early on. But who are your picks this week?
Pretty similar to yours for the most part, and halfway through they changed. So I got Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, Alex Bowman, Truex Jr., DeBenedetto, and Almirola. Truex is the only one I've used. This is my third use, and I've used Logano twice. So trying to branch out, get some new guys. Race winner, I got Elliott. He's also the top Chevrolet. And my top Ford is Joey Logano, and top Toyota is Martin Truex Jr. Pick Chevrolet as winning manufacturer always, and then Hendrick Motorsports.
Yeah, I did think about picking both DeBenedetto and Truex. DeBenedetto's been historically good here, and Truex is pretty much good everywhere. But he's been really good here, winning 2 of the last 3 races here. So, and I think he got second in the other of the 3 races. So,
Yeah, I mean just on short tracks in general now, especially if they're flat, he's been really good.
yeah. Um, but we'll move on. Austin, you could do this part probably complete. The F1, first week of F1 was 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, so before Easter weekend, and you could jump in too to get your thoughts. I'm kind of curious what you thought. Interesting qualifying session. Um, I think Max Verstappen had the pole, or if he didn't, Lewis Hamilton did.
Yes,
But then
Verstappen
going
did.
turn one, Verstappen took the lead, and he was leading for a while. And then Lewis went into the pits to do like the undercut, and then Red Bull just left Max out there. I don't know what the strategy was other than trying to play a little bit of a different tire game, but it made no sense to leave Max out there as long as they did because he might be putting in great laps for how old and slow his tires are. But like Lewis is out there putting in just as phenomenal laps on his tires, so he's catching you. And like it wasn't just like a lap or two, and they like, oh, we got caught out by Mercedes. Like, no, he was out there for a while. And then sure enough, Lewis was out in the lead after Max went into the pits. So um, at the end of the race, I mean, Max Verstappen caught up to Lewis, and then he like passed him, but he went off track as he did it, so he had to give it back. But like a lap before, Lewis went off track in a different spot, and nothing happened about it. So I not a big fan of those calls. Um, but how about Perez starting from the pits? He got up to fifth. That was a phenomenal run from him. It's pretty good to see him out there. Wish he had done a little bit better. But starting from the pits um, with no safety cars late in the race kind of sealed his fate. But still a really good job from him. Um, and I kind of liked your comment after the race, like, so what do we do now? And I told you, well, you just kind of live the rest of your day like you aren't disappointed with what just happened after Lewis won, and Max like just I mean Red Bull cost themselves a race in my opinion.
Yeah, it just stinks because there's so many races that Mercedes is going to win just outright anyways, and then you got these races where another team has a chance to win and then they shoot themselves in the foot, and and it's just really really frustrating. That and I get frustrated about that in like any series where like you have a dominant car or team or whatever, and they win all these races, and then there's a they get set back, or another team's doing really well, and if they do everything right they're gonna win, and then they just blow it, and then the dominant team wins again. I just that happened a lot last year in the Cup Series with Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin. Other people would have a chance and they would just completely screw it up one way or another, and hand the victory over. But yeah, as far as like Max thought that he was saying that let's take that time penalty for that unfair pass, and he thought he could get 5 seconds ahead and take that time penalty and still win. I think that. Oh, I don't know. I'm curious as to if he could have done that, but do I think he could have done that? Mm, I don't know. What do you think?
I would have liked to see him try, but I doubt he could have done it. He might have gotten close, but I feel like 5 seconds is a lot to make up in like 5 laps because he wasn't even catching him by a second a lap or whatever. So I doubt he would have made it, but it would have been cool to see him try
He would have needed to get out of DRS range like really quickly.
instantly, like
Yeah,
the very instant he could have, and never given Lewis DRS, not even once.
right. So if he wasn't going to do that, yeah, with how much time was left, probably not. But yeah, like you said, great run for Perez. Um, it would have been cool to see what he could have done up front, being another Red Bull car. But are they back? Oh, I know you showed me this. Are they back next
And
week?
next weekend, yeah.
Okay, which track is that?
I have no clue.
Just another one that I probably won't like.
Most certainly.
But
How
yeah,
about Mazepin racking out in turn one
yeah.
or
There's actually
turn two or whatever? He that was crazy.
isn't there a counter, like a website that counts how many times Mazepin is spun, and like what time was like the last time he spun out?
Yeah, days since last spin. There is. I haven't been to it, but I would like to keep it in my bookmarked tabs.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. It always seems like F1 has that one guy that's like just a
Hack.
clown. Yeah, he's just a like it's been Mazepin, and oh, there was this one guy. I don't know if he was like Indian. He had a really long name.
Oh, like
Um,
Ragunathan.
yes, yep,
Yeah, he was
him.
in the lower series, but yeah, there's a lot of videos about how terrible he is.
Yep. So yeah, that's interesting. There always seems to be that one guy that like really doesn't belong out there.
Yeah, he's basically like it's the Quinn Houff of NASCAR.
Well, yeah, possibly. Although Quinn, he's been doing slightly better,
Slightly better, but we'll see.
and he also has a new paint scheme this week.
He does. Good for him.
Yes.
Speaking, I saw Trackhouse Racing sold all their sponsorship for the entire year.
Yeah, they have what was it, an insurance company I think that's
Yeah,
on
it's some
board.
insurance company on the car, but I just find it amazing that they found all this sponsorship and Daniel's doing well, arguably like better than he did with Stewart Haas Racing or Joe Gibbs Racing.
At least so far, yeah. And that team's been. It's nice to see a new Chevy team also being pretty strong.
Exactly. Oddly enough, though, it isn't. I figured it would be Spire, based on like what Corey LaJoy was saying, and how they're bringing it up and going to the racetrack and preparing. But honestly, it seems like Trackhouse Racing is better than Spire Motorsports, and I kind of hate to see it. I just wish Corey LaJoy's team was doing better, if that makes sense. Not maybe not better than Trackhouse Racing, but better than where they are.
I think Spire's really preparing for that next gen car. I think that's gonna be a tipping point for some teams. We'll have to see who keeps up with the times.
Definitely.
Um, but quick little tangent. Um, I've been watching Trans Am Racing. Don't know if you ever watched that, but they have a YouTube channel. You can watch some of their full races. And this just recently, they had a Trans Am race at Road Atlanta in the rain, and I was surprised to see Justin Marks was in that race. He was in a Corvette, which was kind of cool. It was him battling it with Boris Said, who was in a Challenger, and a few other guys like Ernie Francis Jr. He's going to be an SRX. He's been a long time Trans Am guy, younger guy, but a really good driver, multi-time champion. He ended up winning the race. It was quite a good battle. But yeah, I kind of was thinking that Justin Marks was kind of out of racing entirely as far as driving, but surprised to see him in that. I don't think it was a full time effort. It was early in the year, but yeah, it was kind of cool to see him driving in that.
Yeah, I never watched the Trans Am series like on YouTube, but when I go to Mid Ohio, they'll be there a couple times. Like for the Xfinity weekend, they've been there. Met Justin Haley the first year we went. He got wrecked on the cool down lap or something by some guy, and that was interesting to see. I met Boris there one year, and yep, he's driving that Challenger. He's really quick still in that series. Um, so yeah, great series.
Yeah, and the cars look really cool, like down to the ground, like but wide, like, and it's all Camaros, Mustangs, and one Challenger. There used to be more Challengers.
There's some Corvettes out there too.
Well, the TA1 series has Corvettes. TA2 does not.
Oh, right.
Um, but yeah, and I think they have like combined races too with like these like GT cars. They kind of remind me of GT4, but not quite. There's like BMWs. They throw Porsche Cup cars in there too, which is interesting. And
They do, yeah. It's weird.
yeah, it's uh, and they have older Corvettes like C6s in that class too. It's all over the place, but it's pretty competitive. I
Pumping
hope that
those numbers up, man.
yeah, I hope that they get some better coverage and can get onto TV a little bit more because I enjoy it. Anyways, we'll move on to the iRacing news. NIS this week was at Martinsville, which could go, which went how you would expect it to go. As far as the racing quality, terrible. I raced on Wednesday night, or Wednesday evening. There's only 7 splits on Wednesday, and I was in split number 2. And we were the number 6 car. I didn't really get much practice. I did qualify 13th, which wasn't too bad. I wanted to ride around, and well, I did end up riding around, but not really in the way that I wanted to. We had 24 cautions in a 250 lap race, 120 caution laps. Um, Felt like that race took forever.
It did. Like when you think about how long it should have taken, it took forever.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a stat on. I don't think there's a stat on here that shows like how long the race. Oh, here we go. I'm gonna scroll all the way down. Oh, the last penalty was on lap 251. 2 hours and 11 minutes. That's how long that took. Pretty unbelievable. Um,
Unreal.
but we, started. in the top 15, and we got up towards got up into like top 10, and we're riding around. Um, and then we got some damage on the front end, and spent a long time repairing that. And we did not have a fully functioning car at the end. We were down on power by like 40 some RPM or something. But we ended up getting a top 10. We ended up getting up into seventh. So um, we just kind of survived there at the end. We didn't have that many. Oh, actually, yeah, we did have incidents. We were 1x away from being penalized. We had 16. And we got most of those X's like in the last 50, 80 laps. Like we got 4 right early on with our damage, and then we didn't get any until like the very end. But so gained some I rating and another top 10. We're P1 now in Division 2, and I think we solidly are. I don't think anybody's going to pass us this week. So P1 in Division 2 standings for NIS fix, so that's pretty cool.
That's awesome, man.
Um, and you were hanging out with us for part of that race, didn't you? I can't remember.
A part of it, I was in and out.
Yeah, it was the Road to Pro race where you were
Road to Pro, I
more
was your
in.
Alan Gustafson.
Yes, as always, which is much appreciated. And we'll move on to Road to Pro. I want to hear this thoughts from your seat first.
So, going into Richmond, we were pretty confident, I would say, based on the speed we had last year. We didn't have like top, well, I think we finished fourth. We didn't have top four speed all night. We kind of lucked into it because I think one time, like the leaders wrecked or someone up inside the top five wrecked. And then we kind of played some good strategy with like undercutting a couple laps after the eventual winner. Um, and I think leader at the time, maybe he was like second or third. So we undercut the field, and yeah, we finished fourth, but we had really good speed all day. And I know you enjoy racing at Richmond, and you're good there. So going into it, I think our hopes were pretty high, especially with the speed we had in the first two races, especially at Atlanta. We had the truck to beat at Atlanta, so I thought we'd do really well, and then to get into it and then suck as bad as we did. I mean, because the car, it looked tight, and I could tell that you were tight because like getting through the center and then getting off, um, we were getting gapped really bad. So we tried to like throw everything at it but the kitchen sink, and unfortunately it was still pretty tight the whole time. Made some pretty big tire adjustments, changed the right rear offset. Never done that before in a race, so that was a first time, fun time. And I think we were rolling around like 16th, and there was a huge pile up on the white flag lap or something. And yeah, I don't know how you made it through, and saw it at the wheel going into turn one. But yeah, we finished ninth. So that was our best finish with our worst truck.
Yeah, everybody, please go look in my recent clips
Oh,
for
just
that.
just chilling for views.
Oh yeah, I am whoring completely.
I showed it to my buddies on Friday night. They were pretty
Awesome.
impressed.
Yeah, that I don't know how we got through that one. When I saw all the smoke, I thought one of two things: either I'm gonna just plow into somebody who's up by the wall, or somebody's gonna pinch me up into the wall, who's next to me, because I was in heavy traffic. And once it kind of cleared, I just kind of slowed down and navigated, and somehow didn't get rear-ended when I was doing that. But
Well,
yeah, that
I
was
saw, because usually if I miss the first part of the wreck, I'm like, oh, I made it through, and then somebody comes off the wall and nails me.
right. Luckily, that one truck actually got stuck up in the fence, so he didn't come back down.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a frustrating race. We had a setup, and our buddy JR was running Road to Pro 2, and he was messing with the setup, and he really could. I mean, he made it better, but not really much better. And it was okay for 20 laps, but you could, even when it was in that window, I could still feel that it was too snug, and it just once it kind of hit that wall with the tires, it would just drop like a rock. And I got up in like around the top 10, and then just fell, and fell like all the way back to around 20th and just kind of rode there. And the adjustments we made, they did make it better on a short run, and I felt I had to get everything I could on the short run because the long run problem was still happening. Um, which is not how I like to drive those tracks. Or those races. I like to be able to bide my time and get through the field later on in the run because it's much easier to pass that way. But yeah, we were 16th on the white flag lap and ended up finishing ninth when we started 8th. Gained some more I rating, but man, can you imagine how hype we would have been if like the other Road to Pro races that we had actually would have panned out like they should have? And if we would have had good runs and finishes in those and then capped it off with a good finish here when we thought we didn't deserve one, that would have been really hype.
Our egos would have been huge,
Oh
let
yeah.
me tell you.
So next Road to Pro race is in 2 weeks. That's at Talladega, which is a crapshoot. So,
I mean, I'll still be there to Ellen Gustafson you, but there's not much I'm going to be doing other than just sitting there.
well, you might
Maybe
be able
pop
to
more.
direct me on some wrecks possibly if they're up ahead.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's all I can do.
Right. Um, then now we go to the league stuff this past week. I actually ran in the GTRL race, and kind of don't want to talk about it. It was pretty embarrassing, but we ran at Phillip Island in Australia, and I ran the BMW. You guys were in the most of you were in the Corvettes. There wasn't many people though. There was only like 4, 5, 6 people, and we were both fastest after we just learned that track at that time, which was pretty cool. But that there's like a downhill left-hander where the car gets really light and it goes right into a like a hairpin right, and I could never get comfortable there. And during the race, I just flew off the track, running second behind you, and never could get my bearings after that. Went off the track a few more times and ended up fourth, but there was only like 4 cars on the track, so it was kind of embarrassing. But I at least like mostly learned a new track, which is kind of my goal when I run those races. So I'm not bothered by it. But you strengthened your hold on the championship.
I did, yeah. Well, just so I mean, to preface the first part of it, learning the track, I tried to do a VRS endurance race there probably like a year and a half ago. Um, Yeah, like probably late 2019. I tried to do a VRS race there, and it was in the Mercedes, and the setup was just terrible. Like I couldn't make more than 2 laps without wrecking or going off track. So I just convinced my buddy Joe that I was like, we're not going to run the race because we'll just wreck. Like I don't care. I don't want to do it. We're out of this. Like I'm never coming back here. I hated the track, and I refused to race. And he was okay with it because he wasn't a big fan of the setup either. So he just like, we'll we'll take the week off. So then to come back, I didn't remember anything. I knew turn one, and that was it. That fast right hander, that was all I could remember. So to go out and learn the track, and yeah, like you said, I mean, we were the fastest pretty quick. So that was pretty cool. Um, and then qualifying. Um, I never knew that we finished our last lap at like the exact same time because like you said, I looked at your stream and you had bested me by like 1/100th or 2/100ths of a second, but then at that last second, like it never even put you in first. Like it just updated at the exact same time and just like a 26.2 and a 26.313, and like that was it. So that was crazy. And then the race started, and I just kind of hoped that you and I could just pull away from everyone based on the fact like we had low 26s and everyone else had like low 27s for qualifying laps. So I was kind of hoping you and I could just pull away from everybody right away. Steven, though, was on our tail. Like he kept us pretty honest, me honest, especially at the end of the race. So that was pretty cool to see him come back and race again and be as competitive as he was. And yeah, I looked in my mirror and I saw you going off at that one turn. And it's such a weird track. Like you said, there's no braking markers. You kind of just like have to get a feel for it and look at the curbing to see like how fast it's going away versus like what you think the car is doing. Um, so yeah, it's really difficult. But yeah, pretty cool to get the win. And then pretty much a stronghold or a stranglehold or whatever on the points championship because Matt didn't show up. So hopefully he's okay. Hopefully it was just a Jennerstown thing, and he'll be back again, or at least he's okay. Um, so so yeah. So as long as I start like every race from here on out, I'm the champion, and technically I can miss a race, and I still have a 14-point lead or whatever.
That's a good feeling to have. But that'll be cool to put your name in the champion record books for BRL history for sure.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Hopefully it pans out that way. But we'll move on to BRL. Street stocks. I should have started eighth by virtue of I won last week in the top eight invert, but I think I started seventh, maybe even fifth. So that was cool. Um, that I was able to start even on the inside. Um, Worked my way through the field a little bit, um, and then there was a wreck in front of me or something. I got spun out. Then I started on the high side, lost a ton of spots. Then I got to restart on the inside. Then I think somebody missed a shift and we all checked up and I got rear-ended and thrown into one of the dirt mounds in the infield. Messed up my toe for like 30 laps of the race and I couldn't pit because I would go a lap down immediately by virtue of being behind the pace car, and then someone didn't know how to follow simple directions, and we couldn't get waved around the pace car, and it was just bad. Bad race. Tours were also terrible because it's Oxford Plains. What a terrible track. Just awful. They should take it off the service, bulldoze the place, tear it up. I hate it. Put dirt on it. Let us race it on Fridays at best. Just awful track. Tours was also terrible. And then we'll go to the Grand National Series. I think I started fifth, worked my way up to I think third, and then James got to my inside because like Jeffrey got off the corner terrible once, and I just went too high, and James was there, so he got past me, and then JR let me in, which thankfully he did, but it still meant I restarted fourth. So as soon as the race, we had a caution, we restarted. I lost like 5 spots or something. Got to restart on the inside, and then Jeffrey spun me out, but I haven't gone back to look at it, but my spotter never said he was on the inside, and I was only paying attention to the car's rear bumper ahead of me to make sure I didn't spin him out. So I don't know where Jeffrey was. He said he bounced off the curb and hit me, but no, there's nothing intentional there. So that sucked. Really messed up the tires. Um, and then I went all the way to the back, which is pretty terrible. Um, and then rallied back to I think finished seventh. Accidentally spun out Adam Shane because Ruben was checking us all up on the corner exit. I don't know why you'd check up on corner exit, but I think he was doing it. I think his car was just his tires were chooched. And then Justin passed us both on the outside, just like literally how slow we were going. So that was good on him. And yeah, we'll move on to a real racetrack next week, North Wilkesboro.
Yeah, I was watching that Grand National race, and you know, that track is just such a low line track, and you have to make last second moves. So it's like there's always a lot of contact when it comes to people trying to pass each other because you think that the guy's kind of dive bombing you, but that's really the only way to pass people. And you know, I'm not usually one to make that excuse at tracks where sometimes people will be like, "Well, that's just how racing is here." Like what people were trying to pull at Martinsville, dive bombing people and whatnot. That's not how you race at Martinsville. But at a track where you have no straightaway, it's hard to initiate a pass coming on corner exit when you go right from corner exit to the next corner in such a quick time. So makes things a little bit uncomfortable, but
Well, especially when the
um,
guy can put you on the curb twice. Like there was one time I was looking at his inside entering corner and he put me on the curb. And then one time he like messed up in the middle, went high, and then I was there and he just come down and put me on the curb again. So in hindsight, probably should have just wrecked him, but it is what it is.
yeah, it is what it is.
It's a terrible track that leads to terrible racing.
Yeah, but well, that's the kind of, in my opinion, that's kind of like the beauty of racing is like having to adapt to uh, situations like that where you aren't used to it or don't like it or you know whatever you have to do to do better because everybody's in the same situation. It's kind of the way I look at it. But
Except for the leader. The first guy in the line can dick over everyone else behind
yeah,
him.
yeah. But at least for you, that's the only time you'll have to go there this whole calendar year, and so you can move on to the next
Yep.
one. And you got into the top eight invert at least, so we'll be able to live another day. I did want to mention real quick BRL Dirt because they had a new winner in the street stocks on Friday night, and that was William Hargreaves. He started on the pole. Well, he qualified first, won his heat, started on the pole in the feature, and led all 40 laps. Brandon Proudfoot was second. Billy Northcutt was third. So
Did
good
you
for him.
race in that race, Kenny?
Nope, I did not. There was
Good. You love to hear it.
yeah,
Taking a break.
14 drivers in that race. So
Ooh.
I've been racing on the Friday stuff occasionally, just not every week. And I don't think I was home. Yeah, I wasn't home in time to run this race. So, but
Yeah, I'm only even doing every other week at best, and if something comes up, I'm just gonna miss another.
yeah. Um, but I wanted to give a shout out to that. And now our favorite segment of the day, that is Rusty's Retro Races. So Rusty actually, Brian actually ran a race last weekend, Easter weekend. He was off a few weeks before that. Um, so he did run on Easter Sunday. That was North Wilkesboro, and Brian's been pretty solid at like the short tracks, and he actually has a win there in 1981 season in the second race of the year. Um, so he came in and actually took the pole. And I will pull up my screen here. The left side here has the starting lineup, and the right side here is the finishing order. Austin, you picked Bobby Allison, and he ended up leading the most laps, and he won the race. So good on you. Bill Elliott was my pick. He ended up first car one lap down. Solid run. We keep picking drivers who are finishing in the top 10, but just didn't quite have the speed over the whole run. Neil Bono with a strong run. Daryl Waltrip's been strong as expected. Terry Labonte, the champ, top 5. Brian ended up, Brian was 5th as well. Joe Ruttman's finally able to finish some races, ended up 6th. Ricky Rudd was the last car in the lead lap, then 7th. Good top 10 effort for Mark Martin after starting 31st as well. And my parents and I we all watched this during and after our Easter dinner, so that was kind of cool to just hang out, watch Brian's race. It was a pretty um, good race too. There wasn't a whole lot of cautions, if I remember correctly. What did you think of it?
I thought it was a great race. I thought it was cool to see Brian doing pretty well early on. His car it was, I would say it was evil. And then the AI just are not well to be raced against. Like they'll just push you into a corner, and they don't race you very clean. So you're kind of forced to like take a back seat and just ride around if you're getting passed.
Yeah, if they're faster than you, they'll just kind of run right through you. They did have 9 cautions. There was kind of some cautions towards the end of the race. But there was a lot of long green flag runs too, and there was a weird thing in one of the cautions at the end. Bobby Allison like looked like he was like pulling towards the pit lane, but he like stopped. But then they gave him his spot back. It was really weird. I didn't know if he like hit the end of the pit wall or what he was doing, but he ended up getting his spot back and continuing on. But that was kind of weird. Not very many people didn't finish the race. Most people finished. Like you see, Jim Sauter, Slick Johnson did not finish there at the end. Buddy Baker, Ronnie Hopkins, Cale Yarborough ended up wrecking out, I think. Tim Richmond, Dick Brooks doing Dick Brooks things. So really, about 20, 25 plus drivers ended up finishing. So that was kind of cool to see. So this week we're at Martinsville, which is kind of interesting since the real series is also at Martinsville. And I have
Method
the.
to Brian's madness.
What's that?
A method to Brian's madness is skipping those weeks.
Maybe
Coming
so.
back for Easter.
Maybe so. We'll look at the lineup here, and 6 drivers did not qualify decal. Rick Sterling Marlin did make it. That's kind of sad. Rick McRae, Rick Newsom, Slick Johnson, and Ronnie Hopkins. And I get first pick this week because you beat me last week. Um, Favorites and sleepers. Brian the favorite, Bobby Ellison, and Terry Labonte. Sleepers. Jimmy Means, Tommy Gale, Buddy Arrington. Past winners, Dave Marcus and Brian Dean. Oh yeah, I remember Joe Boer with a complete upset win in '81, and Brian, and then Neil Bonnet and Terry Labonte. So if I go and look at our podcast outline real quick, let's see. I have picked Neil Bonnet, Daryl Waltrip, Sterling Marlin, and Bill Elliott. I haven't picked Bobby Allison yet this year. I kind of want to go with Dave Marcus, but I'm not entirely sure. Let's look at the lineup here. We got Terry Labonte on pole. Richard Petty, good start, 7th place. Richard's the king at Martinsville. Kyle Petty's right behind him in row 5. Joe Ruttman, a decent qualifying effort. Brian's back in 20th, so he's got some work to do. Dave Marcus also towards the second half of the field. Oh, and it's only a 32 car field too, with it being a short track, so that's gonna make things a little bit interesting. Butch Lindley's in this race. Morgan Shepherd. You know, I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna pick King Richard. I think
King Richard, good pick, good pick.
Yep. And my dad's going with Terry Labonte. As we know, he's 1 for 1. He made one pick. He picked Neil Bonnet early on in the season, and he ended up winning. So there you go, Austin. If you want to pick Terry Labonte, he's going to win today.
I'm picking Terry Labonte. I was really hoping you wouldn't pick Terry Labonte.
I'm saving Terry. Even though he very well might win this race, I'm saving him.
Hey, I understand.
So, because we only pick one driver each week, we're picking a different driver every week. So I'm gonna pick King Richard, even though he hasn't won in all of Brian's races. He's the only driver to start every race and not win any of them.
But you know what, though? I think the last Spring Martinsville race, Richard was in the lead by like an entire lap. So he could be his day.
Yep. And looking at the point standings, Brian is 7th in points with it's a pretty slim margin now with Daryl Waltrip. Did he not have a great week last week, if I remember correctly?
I don't think he had.
Oh no, he finished third. He finished third last week. I thought. Yeah, it was the week before. It was at Darlington. That's where he had a rough race. He finished 37th. So yeah, so that really tightened up the point standings. Daryl Waltrip apparently won the real race at Martinsville in '83 in the springtime. So there is that. Buddy Baker's actually in 6th place in his points too. That's kind of surprising. Morgan Shepherd 9th. Richard's 10th. So, yeah, we got the picks. Richard Petty for me, Terry Labonte for you, and Terry Labonte also for Dad. So, good luck to Brian on that. It's one he could definitely win.
We'll move on then to video games. I saw you've been playing some Assassin's Creed, Kenny.
Yeah, so I just got back into it a couple days ago, or a few days ago, and they added some new content. First, they added like these river raids. So, for anybody who doesn't know, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is basically based on like Vikings. And part of what the Vikings would do is like a lot of river raids and raids. You know, you hop on your little ship, take a crew, and go pillage from neighboring villages, basically. And you can do that all around the main map. But what they did is they added like another exterior map. It's kind of independent of the main map, and it's just river raiding. And you can go through, and the deeper you go into the river, the more difficult the opposition gets. And if you go there multiple times, what they start doing is the villages will set up defenses to prevent you from getting through. So But it's a good way to get resources and to gain experience and upgrade stuff and whatnot. It's kind of a fun little thing they added. They also added the Ostara Festival, which is like it's to celebrate the spring season beginning. So there's like some little missions and stuff that you can do around your settlement, which is called Ravensthorpe, and just some little things, repeatable things that you can do over the next few weeks. I think it ends in like 3 days or so. At this point, I was kind of late to the party, but and then also doing that kind of led me into doing more of the story. So I've been there's still quite a bit to go. I have like over 60 hours total into that story, and I'm not even close to done with the story. So um, it's there's been quite a lot happening. I know I got just a few more territories to get going on before the story will probably end, and then it'll just be doing minor stuff around the map at that point. But yeah, it's been pretty fun. You still doing the GTA and Siege and whatnot?
Yeah, I played GTA 5. Unfortunately, they patched whatever would allow my buddies and I to get our own little like online lobby that was still semi-legitimate. They patched that, but didn't say it outright. So thanks, Rockstar. Probably not going to play that very often now, because you can't do anything without getting killed by randos in there or just harassed in general. So that's unfortunate. Yeah, I played a bit of Siege one of the days. And then I played Minecraft with my cousins on, I think Thursday night. It was just an absolute ball. Luckily, we we got off before the race, so I could crew chief for you. But yeah, having a great time. We found a mushroom biome. Like first time I've ever found one of those on a server or like been playing and not like just like downloaded the seed and then looked up like, oh, go to these coordinates and you can find the biome. So that's pretty crazy. Um, have you been playing anything else?
Um, Not really. I know Brody wanted to play some Rocket League with Zane, but that just kind of didn't pan out. What I have been doing quite a bit this week is disc golfing, and been going anytime I can. There's like a crew of anywhere from two to six of us that will play on a regular basis, and five of us went out to our local course in Whitehall. Um, was it? It would have been Friday, yeah. And one of my buddies got an ace. That was like that's actually his second ace in like a month or two, and it's with a disc that he just got this year. It's a Discraft and Nuke, and it's pink. And different hole this time. He got one on hole two. It actually skipped off a tree, like deflected off a tree and went right in the basket. I wasn't there for that one. This one was just a straight shot. It's like I don't know, 200 some foot hole, and he just lasered it right in the basket. It was pretty cool. And
That's incredible.
I was actually winning that round too. And that like we have a house rule where if you ace, you just win. But unless the other person aces and does better than you, but um, not only did he win because of that, but I was one stroke ahead of him and I only parred that. And so when he aced that, he actually leapfrogged me and also took the lead on that hole and stayed ahead of me the rest of the time. He beat me by one stroke. And that was a good round for me. We all had some really good shots and putts and stuff, and it's always really fun when everybody's playing pretty well. One of our friends wasn't playing too well, but at least three of us out of the five were doing pretty darn well, really. Not our best, but kind of close to it at least. Um, so that was pretty fun.
That's
Actually,
awesome. Pretty incredible. I know you've aced one before, haven't you?
yeah, I've aced one. I know, depending on the angle of my camera, you maybe I'll sometimes see it in the background. A red disc is hanging up on my wall. It was at that course, but another different hole that I aced, and only Brody was with me, so he's my only witness. But at least I had one witness to it. It was actually in the rain too. That was last summer, and yeah, I hung the disc up because they say that if you ace with a disc, that you'll lose it if you keep using it. And my buddy Tim, who he aced both of his aces this year with that pink nuke, and he's still using it. So I'm almost hoping that he loses it, just because it's like,
Just fight him.
yeah. Well, that and like that, that's what they always told me, So I'm like, I don't know. It's almost like tradition.
Maybe they're saying that because that's your best disc and they want you to do worse.
I don't know. I ended up buying another one of those right away. I just haven't used it quite enough to break it in yet. That's why I liked how that disc flew. Is it was broken in. So
I
this,
assume from like hitting trees and stuff,
yep, yeah. So what happens
as
is
always.
they get more understable. So it basically means that they will turn less the more they break in. Or if you throw it on an opposite angle, it'll hold that angle more as they break in. So that's kind of what I just need. It was a Innova Champion Valkyrie was that disc. Had a
Well,
red
maybe you
one.
should go outside in your backyard and just throw it at a tree a couple times.
I just like to break them in naturally. Don't
I didn't
worry,
know that though. That's interesting.
don't worry. They break in quite a bit on the course. I hit quite a lot of trees.
Oh, there are some holes where I'll hit a tree and hit a tree and hit a tree.
there's courses around here that have a lot of trees, so don't worry. It'll get broken in sooner or later. However, I did buy. I started buying discs of a different brand. I wanted to try the MVP brand, so I bought another bag and I bought like one, two, three, four, like 5 discs, I think. Um, one putter, a mid-range, um, and a few drivers and a fairway driver. And I started using them in 2 of the discs in particular, 3 of them really. The 2 drivers and the putter I've really been liking, and that's what I used yesterday when I got um, second place in our friend group, um, playing a pretty good round. So I'm starting to get used to those discs. So pretty happy with them so far. I enjoy buying them and playing with different brands and stuff like that. So have
Very
you?
cool. I think I've been out twice this year. I wish I could go more often, but I don't have a whole lot of friends that go disking, so or
Yeah,
at least that live near me enough. Like I'll go with the buddies from college on Fridays or whatever, and then with my brother, but we don't go as often.
do you have any courses that are like close to you?
I have a couple. I have two within like 10 minutes, and maybe three, but that third one is like not in the best neighborhood. I don't think so. Like I could go, I just like need people to go with.
Right. Yeah, I've only been disking by myself once, and when I went there, I actually
You made a
um
friend.
yeah.
Wasn't he the one that had you try the MVP disc, or is that a different
Yep,
brand?
that was the guy. He was from Chicago, and he I reached hole. It was at Whitehall again. I reached hole 2, and he was just kind of or no, hole 3. He was just throwing by himself, and I was just like, "Hey, you want to just play through with me?" He's like, "Oh, sure, why not?" So we were playing, and he had a full cart full of MVP discs with custom stamps, and they were all like brand new. and and he just kept going. Like, he was watching me throw a few times, and he was just like, "Hey, try this, try this, try this." And I believe it was the Catalyst, the MVP Catalyst, which is one of the discs I bought, was the one that I fell in love with, and I was like, "Man, I need to get one of these things." And
Traveling salesman.
yeah, yeah, I I
I think it's funny. Like the way you described the story to us in Discord was like you were playing. You were like, "Oh, sorry, I've never been disking by myself before." And this guy was like, "Oh, you can throw with me if you want." You were like, "Okay."
that's basically how it worked. So I still haven't played an entire round by myself. Um, and of course that literally ended up being my best round at that course ever. Like, over the entire 24 holes. Um, well, technically it's a 36 hole course, but we usually just play 24. Um, but yeah, and but I've come close to that before. But I need to buy a few more discs to kind of fit every situation on the course for MVP. But I'm liking them. Do you have any aspirations to buy any more discs?
I'll buy them if they look like cool, or depending on the color and their, I guess their properties. I guess like I really want to try and get more brighter colored discs because my favorite disc was like a blue Champion plastic. I don't know what disc it was. It was like one of the Anova misprints. So they just kind of slapped something on there to be like, hey, like this should be a cheaper disc because we messed up the printing on it. So I have no idea what it is, um, but I know it's Champion plastic. So I was trying to buy one similar to it, but it's like blue, so it blends into the grass, and I almost lose it all the time. So I'm trying to find more brighter colored discs that are drivers that I enjoy throwing, just the same as my Champion one.
Yeah, I've used like a lot of my Innova discs are Champion plastic. Um, just kind of that was actually the starter pack that I bought when I first got into disking was some Innova Champion discs. It was the Valkyrie was actually in that. It was one of my first discs ever, and then an AVR, and then some mid range. Can't remember what it was, but uh, ended up getting rid of that one pretty early. But they were all Champion plastic, and that's kind of what I just stuck with for all like almost all my Innova stuff. The only other plastic I ever got was a disc, and it was an AVR that I found, and I think it was a Star plastic, which is pretty common. But uh, yeah, so now I own a lot of Discraft, a lot of Innova, one Prodigy putter that I use a lot, and then now I'm getting into MVP. So it's fun. I really enjoy it. It gets me out, keeps me active, allows me to have a hobby. I can collect something, but then also do something. So it's fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to get more Champion plastic discs, but we'll see.
Anywho's, we got rant and review that you kind of already started earlier in the podcast, and that was Oxford Plains. Take it away.
Y- Yeah, I mean, it's basically like in the tour mod race, my wheel was clocked at 90 degrees the entire race. It's just terrible. And there's no outer wall. On the front stretch, the banking that makes you like have to right the car normally, it goes away if you go too high. So that's terrible. There's no outer wall in the turn, so if you get spun out and if you don't save it, you're going over it. Last night, Jeffrey spun out, didn't hold his brakes, or maybe he just couldn't hold his brakes. I don't know, but Justin ricocheted off him and just did a sick drift into the wall, and like that was a hard lick. Like if it were real life, he would have been concussed for sure. So but the racing there, I mean, we alluded to it earlier. Because it's so small, you can't make a pass off the corner. You pretty much have to dive bomb somebody. And in our league, dive bombing is super frowned upon. So everybody just thinks you're not going to do it, or you don't have the balls to do it, and they'll just drive you right down onto the curbs. And if you spin them out, it's on you. And I know we're not going to change how we look at dive bombing for that track. So it's just really frustrating.
Yeah, I personally think that um, a track like that, like Oxford Plains, I think there should be some extra leniency on um, the penalties. And I don't think the what I think though is it shouldn't be spoken. It shouldn't be where Lowell comes out or whoever says like, "Hey, IRT is going to be kind of lax this week." Don't do that because that's just going to make people drive like
No, it's
idiots.
basically like if someone's on your ass and could easily wreck you off the corner or going into it, let them by. Because otherwise, like you give me one option and that is to turn you.
Well, I
Or
think
just send it on you, and if you spin out, sorry, you suck.
I think as hard as it is to pass though, like you can get next to somebody if you do it right, like
No, you
on the
can,
straightaway.
but it's just if I'm next to you and you drive me onto the curb, like what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I think at that track, if they get next to you at all going into the corner, whether it's just like by a bumper or not, you have to give them a line. It's whereas at another track, you would probably still come down and they'd have to back out of it. Um,
Or at least
that's
at
like the
another
only
track,
difference.
you'd have the opportunity to initiate the pass off the corner, where it like usually you can get up to being on their inside at least halfway down the straightaway, worst case. Because after that, like you're just dive bombing them pretty much. But there, it's like because it's so short, you really only get to being on their inside like 3/4 of the way down the straightaway.
Yep.
Which there, you're pretty much turning all the time is just a dive bomb.
But like I said earlier, at least you only have to go there once a year for BRL,
Yep,
and you're done
we
there.
we
So
survived and we're still in good standing. So we'll move on to getting around to it. Modeling. I finished my Dale Senior Lumina. That turned out pretty okay. Um, I took
Yeah.
some pictures with my two Luminas. They look nice together. It's pretty cute.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up your Lumina here on the Discord and show it off.
Now I'm working on Buddy Baker's Gray Ghost, the 1980 Daytona 500 fastest 500 ever. The winner from that, it is so much heavier than every other model I've ever built. There's so much more parts in it. It's very intricate. Surprisingly enough, they had leaf springs, um, which I guess makes sense. But having to model those and so many tiny parts that I have to put together, it's pretty weird, very intricate. But yeah, that one's going to take me a while. So my usual like one model every 2 weeks is going to be slowed down to. This might take me 4 weeks. So it
Well,
is
you
what
have
it
to give
is.
updates.
Yep, but
Um,
I bought four the other day. What's up?
well, I was gonna the Lumina for Dale Earnhardt. That was the silver and red was already painted, right?
Uh, um,
Or like,
Already painted? Like I painted it. Those aren't stickers.
okay,
The decals I bought from Mike's, like it just had the red pinstripes as decals, no silver. So I was like, well, I ain't painting the silver just to put a red decal over it and make it look all hokey. So I just painted the red on, and then painted the silver on over that. So that's all. That's all masking and painting.
oh, so that is painted. Okay,
Yeah, I
yeah.
wasn't. I wasn't gonna risk it with the decals.
Well, that makes that even cooler then. Yeah, I remember you mentioned something about decals, and I couldn't remember. I had thought that that this one was just that one was already decaled or something, but I misheard. So that makes that even cooler then, because it's
Yeah, it took a lot
painted.
more time, but I mean, with the Duplicolor paints, they dry in like 10 minutes. So you basically like mask it, paint it, and then like as soon as you're done painting, I bring it inside and I unmask it and see what I got. And luckily, it turned out really okay. I'm pretty proud of it. Could have done better, but could have done a lot worse with it. So I'm pretty proud of it because I did have to paint it.
Oh, I like how it's even got the in memory of our friend Neil on the side
Yeah, it
since
gave me a couple
'94.
different options. There was the Alan Kaluki one, the Davey Allison one, and then the Neil Bonnet one. And because I was building a 94 car,
Made
um,
sense.
and Neil died in 94, I put that on there because I thought both Alan and Davey died in 93.
Um, yes,
But
I
the decal sheet only had Alan's for 93, and then it had Davey or Neil for 94. So I just left the Neil one on there. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty cute tribute, so I left it.
yeah, oh, that's cool.
The new shelf above the TV, we're still getting around to it. Still getting around to it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, vacation planning actually. I totally left that on there by mistake, but actually, just this week, some buddies of mine messaged me that they were gonna do a camping trip in first weekend of June, just at a local campground. We have it's called the Channel Campground in Muskegon. It's probably like 5 minutes away from my parents' house, and but it's right basically on the channel between Muskegon Lake and Lake Michigan. Um, and I don't think I've ever actually camped there. I think I've like visited there before, but I don't think I've actually ever camped there before. So, um, yeah, they want to go there for just like a weekend thing. So they're going Thursday and coming back Sunday. So if there's NIS this week, I'll have to run it Wednesday. If there's Road to Pro that week, I'll have to come home and run that race and go back out. And that's going to be right. That's right near the end of the Road to Pro season. That might actually be the last week of Road to Pro. Um,
We could always sit it out.
I don't. I want to have a full season though. I really do.
Okay, okay.
Um, we'll see. We'll see. But I'm actually, as I'm speaking here, trying to go and look for that picture that I have. Here it is. The Road to Pro schedule. Um, June 4th, Martinsville. Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, I'll have to figure something out there. That's not gonna be a fun race either.
No, that's gonna be a 2-hour race.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I should just sit that out. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Um, but anyways, um, yeah, so that, and I haven't really talked any more yet about the Wisconsin thing. I'd like to get over there this summer. I know our buddy John Hine might be coming here next month for the Tulip Festival in Holland, so I might get to meet him. That'll be kind of cool if he ends up coming up for that. But yeah, spring and summer they're getting here, so we'll be doing some stuff this summer for sure. Anyways, is there any lasting thoughts?
Nope. Just glad to do the podcast again. Thanks everybody for listening.
Yeah, and my apologies for first being late to the podcast. Secondly, not having my mic set up correctly at times, and yeah,
Getting back into
I
the
will.
swing of it.
Yeah, I will definitely try to be better next week. But um, overall, it's a good podcast. We'll have a ton to talk about next week because we'll have Martinsville to recap, and I think NASCAR's back again next week too, right? There's no break next week.
Correct. And we'll have NEP to talk about, which should be a
Yep.
good race. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep, we'll have NEP from Sebring to talk about. We won't have Road to Pro, um,
But we'll
but
have NIS.
we will have NIS. We'll have BRL, so we'll have plenty to talk about. And yeah. Anyways, thanks everybody who tuned in. Thanks to Austin again for being the co-host as always. And see you guys next week. Goodbye and Godspeed.